Now, let us discuss in the last part a diabatic process. A diabatic means not, dia means through, bait means heat. So, as Greek word, a diabatic means a system in which no heat can pass through the walls of the system. So, a diabatic process is a process in which all the three state variables, that is pressure, volume and the temperature of the system, will change, but system is not capable of exchanging any heat between the with the surroundings. So if a system is not able to exchange any heat with the surrounding, that is possible only if the walls of the system are perfectly insulating in nature. So an ideal gas contained inside a cylinder fitted with frictionless piston, such that the walls and the piston, they are both fully insulated in nature. This forms a adiabatic system. Now, essential conditions for a diabatic process to take place is that the walls must be perfectly insulating in nature so that system and surroundings cannot exchange any heat energy between them. Second, the process must undergo a sudden expansion or a sudden compression so that system does not get enough time so that there should be an exchange of heat with the surrounding for the system. So if a gas undergoes a sudden compression, some amount of heat energy will be produced inside the gas equal to the work done on the system, because the compression is done suddenly, so the heat generated by the system will not have enough time so that it can be lost into the surrounding. So due to the reduction in the volume, the pressure and the temperature of the gas will increase. When the gas undergoes a sudden expansion, work is done by the gas. So gas uses some internal energy. So volume increases, the pressure of the gas decreases, temperature also decreases, because walls are insulating in nature, so it cannot absorb any heat from outside. So with delta Q equal to 0, all the three state variables undergoes a change. A diabatic process, because all three state variables undergo a change, so its equation of state can be expressed in three different ways. First equation of state is P into V raised to power gamma constant. Second is T into V raised to power gamma minus 1 constant. Third is P raised to power 1 minus gamma into T raised to power gamma constant, where gamma is the ratio of the molar specific heats at constant pressure and constant volume. Work done for the adiabatic expansion can be given as 1 over gamma minus 1 into P1 V1 minus P2 V2, or in terms of temperature as nR over gamma minus 1 T1 minus T2. Now if work is done on the system, that is compression of the gas takes place, we know that T2 will be the final temperature greater than the initial temperature T1. So here T1 is the initial temperature and T2 is the final temperature. So for work done on the system, T2 will be greater than T1, so work done will be negative in nature. But if work is done by the system itself, in this case temperature will fall, so T2 will be less than T1. In this case work done will be positive in nature. This was the work done expression for the adiabatic expansion. Let us now discuss limitations of first law of thermodynamics. The first limitation is that it does not indicate the direction of the transfer of the heat energy. We know that from our daily life experience, heat always flows from a body at high temperature to a body at a low temperature. First law only tells us that heat can be converted into mechanical work, or mechanical work can be equivalently converted into the heat energy. That means it tells us only about the flow of the heat energy, but does not tell us the direction of the flow of the heat energy. So according to the first law, heat can also flow from body at high temperature to body at low temperature, but it can also flow from body at low temperature to the body at high temperature. But why in actual practice it only flows from high temperature to low temperature body, and it cannot flow from low temperature body to the high temperature body? First law cannot explain this. Second, this law does not indicate under what conditions which are required in which heat energy can be converted into the mechanical work. So this law is failing to explain the conditions in which heat can be converted into the mechanical work. If we take a simple example, when a bullet is fired on a wooden target, bullet possesses huge amount of kinetic energy which gets converted immediately into the heat energy when it gets struck into the wooden target. First law cannot explain why this heat energy generated when bullet hits the target, it cannot be converted back into the kinetic energy of the bullet, so that bullet again can be put into motion. So conditions of transfer or conversion of heat into work, they are not indicated in the first law of thermodynamics. Last, it does not indicate the extent up to which heat can be converted into mechanical work. So out of the total heat supply to a system, how much part of it can be actually converted into the mechanical work? This is not indicated by first law. So according to first law, it is possible to convert the whole of the supplied heat energy into mechanical work. We know that for isothermal process, when temperature is constant, any change in the internal energy is also zero because there is no change in the temperature of the system. So if that is the condition, by the mathematical statement of first law, the whole of delta Q becomes equal to delta W. So the full amount of heat energy can be converted into mechanical work. But we know that in actual practice this does not happen. Whenever some heat is supplied to a system, only some part of that is used by the system to convert into a mechanical work, while the rest of the part is lost into the surrounding. Why this has to take place? Why some part of the heat energy must be lost by the system into the surrounding and converting only some part into the mechanical work? First law cannot explain this. Second law of thermodynamics. Two statements are there for second law. First is Kelvin Planck statement, which says that it is impossible to construct an engine which will produce no effect other than extracting heat from a reservoir and performing an external work. That is, in simpler word, Kelvin Planck statement means that we cannot construct an engine which will absorb a certain amount of heat energy from a heat source and will be able to convert 100% of that heat energy into the mechanical work without losing some part of that into the surroundings. So this type of engine cannot be realized in actual practice, for which efficiency is 100%. Clausius statement: it is impossible for a self-acting machine unaided by an external agency to transfer heat from a body at low temperature to a body at high temperature. Clausius statement says that without any external help, it is not possible for any machine to transfer the heat energy from body at low to body at high temperature. So normal in the routine, heat always flows from high temperature to low temperature body. But if we want that heat must flow from body at low temperature to body at high temperature, that is in the reverse direction, it cannot be done by any machine until and unless it is provided with some help from the outside. Refrigerator is an example of this statement, Clausius statement, in which refrigerator transfer the heat within its compartment which is present at low temperature to the outside world, that is to the surrounding which is present at high temperature. But that is done by the refrigerator with the help of an external help arriving from the compressor. So if compressor is not there fitted in the refrigerator, it cannot transfer heat from body at low temperature to body at high temperature. So for any machine it is not possible at all without any external help to transfer heat from body at low temperature to body at high temperature.